Hey there, this is Clay Andrews, the world's leading breakup expert for high achievers. And today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 things that you should never text your ex. Okay, so let's just jump right into this. The first thing that you do not want to do when you are texting your ex is to text them very long, very big, very difficult to read things, right? We kind of call this, in our little community of clients and everything, we call this the wall of text effect. This is like one of those giant paragraphs where there's just like no breaks, nowhere for your eye to rest. It just kind of like goes on and on and on and on and on. Like when I was in high school, I had to read Franz Kafka's The Castle, and I remember finding this page and I was like, whoa, this is a really big paragraph. It goes on, and I counted how many pages it went on. It went on for 19 pages. And it's kind of like that. A lot of times people will contact their ex via text message or email or letter or something like that, and it's just this giant wall of text. And it's very off-putting for your ex to try to read. It's going to make it very difficult for them to read because it looks like a lot of work. It looks like there's a lot of, emotional pain and like there's just like a lot of mental effort to try to read it. I kind of experience this whenever I look at some emails that people send in or things that people post in our online discussion area, etc. And I don't have like all of the history and stuff between myself and them, because obviously we weren't dating and stuff like that. But you just imagine that your ex gets this with all the history and baggage. Number one, it's already going to be hard to read, and number two, because of the history, they're probably not going to want to read it because it might be painful or long and really kind of making some of the other mistakes that we're going to talk about in a minute here. And so they're probably just not going to read it. And then they're going to feel guilty about not reading it, and then a couple days goes by and it's like, no, maybe I just won't ever read it. And then they're just obviously not going to respond to it because they feel so bad about it, it's hard to read, and plus there's the guilt on top of that. They're just not going to respond. And so that's the first mistake. Definitely do not use the wall of text. If you watch this video and you email us in a wall of text, then we're going to know that you weren't paying very good attention, okay? So definitely don't use the wall of text. Number 2, do not bring up heavy subjects like the relationship or the breakup in that first text, okay? You don't want to be like, hey, we have unfinished business to talk about, or I thought we should talk about our sordid history. Or don't do that, because again, it's not going to be something that is easy to respond to. It's not going to be something that they're going to want to really willingly go into. It's kind of like when the teacher in school says, hey, I want you to see me after class. And the whole class, you're just sitting there like, oh no, am I going to flunk? Am I going to be suspended? Like, did I screw up really bad on that last test or something? You don't want to have that happen, right? So don't introduce, yourself to your ex via text message with like something like that, like, one of those like, hey, let's talk about the breakup or the relationship or, my negative feelings or how badly I'm taking this or something like that. Don't do that, okay? The third thing is making the text all about you. You do not want to make the communication with your ex all about you, right? You don't want it to be like, hey, since the breakup, I've been doing all these things. I made these new friends. I ran into this person. I lost 10 pounds. I got a new job, all that stuff. Like, you don't want to make it all about you, because it sounds like you're trying too hard to win their approval. It sounds like you're trying to impress them. And that's not really a very good place to be when it comes to getting back together with your ex, because instantly it puts you kind of below them in a place. And when somebody is below you, they really have no way to even interact with you except by looking down on you, right? And so you don't want your ex to be looking down on you, because that is going to put you in a very difficult place for you to get back together with them. So, number 3, do not make the communication, the first text message or so, all about you. Obviously, if they ask about you or something later on in the conversation, sure, tell them about you, but do not make that first communication all about you, okay? Fourth thing is avoid big asks right up front, right? So you don't want to send the text message that's like, hey, can we get back together? Or, hey, have you thought about whether or not we should get back together? Hey, can we go out on a date? Or, anything like that. You don't want to do that, because that is a really big thing for them to say yes to. And so they're probably going to say no, or they're probably just not going to respond at all, like we talked about the wall of texting. It's too difficult to respond to because after a breakup, oftentimes your ex doesn't really know how the two of you are going to fit together again. You know, maybe they do want to keep you in their life, but are the two of you going to get back together? Are the two of you going to be friends? Like, you know, obviously, I don't believe the friend zone exists post breakup, but that's an issue for another video. But they don't know this consciously, and so they're not going to be able to really give you the answer that you're looking for in terms of like, can we get back together or something like that. So what's best is to take things slow and understand that questions like, can we get back together, or like the big asks, right? Those have their own timeline. Those have their own place where you can and should ask them, okay? But it's definitely not right at the beginning. When you're first kind of reaching out to your ex via that first text message, okay? So don't do that right away. Start with something small and then understand that when the time is right, you know, that's when you can ask the big ask kind of things, okay? And the fifth mistake in terms of, you know, texting your ex and stuff like that, the last thing you don't want to do is to just put in like some kind of like cultural fluff thing, right? And you know, by this I mean oftentimes people will text, you know, each other like, hey, how you doing? Yo, what's up? You know, hope you're doing well, stuff like that. You don't want to put that kind of stuff in because, you know, even though you may genuinely mean it, you may genuinely want to know how they're doing, that's just, at least in Western society, that's just the kind of thing that we just sort of bat around without even really a second thought. Like, you know, how are you doing? That's almost kind of like a greeting rather than an actual genuine question. You know, like you probably get asked that by the cashier at the store or the barista at your coffee shop, or, you know, all number of people who probably don't even actually pay attention enough to like really listen to your answer, right? They're like, hey, how's it going? Okay, by the way, the bill is $5 or whatever. Like they're probably not even paying attention to your response. And so we just kind of get immune to these sorts of questions in our society. So you don't want to be asking these sorts of questions to your ex because they're probably a little bit, you know, tuned out to those questions anyway. So ask a specific question that lets them know that you're paying attention and lets them know that you actually want them to answer it. But again, you know, based on the other mistakes, you don't want it to be like a really big ask or anything like really deep or painful to answer, right? Make it something that's easy to answer, that's fun to answer, okay? So again, I hope that helps you out. If you'd like more advice on how to get back together with your ex, please head on over to relationshipinnergame.com. That's my website. You can find a link to it down below this video in the description. And when you get there, please sign up for our email newsletter so that we can start sending you help and tips and advice to help you get back together with your ex, okay? So I'll see you over there, and please sign up for the newsletter so that we can start helping you today. Thanks.